like God is distant. I know how it feels. I mean, you become discouraged because it just seems like God isn't around, that he's checked out of your life. Unanswered prayer, a sense of disappointment at the events that are going on in your life. Maybe it's a betrayal from someone close to you. And you just think, God, where are you? And when hopelessness sets in like that, we can feel like there's no future, there's no reason to dream, there's no desire to aspire or to achieve or to solve problems. You just want to kind of, give up. You become despondent and discouraged. And it can throw us in despair and depression. But we have hope. And we have a name that goes with that hope. And that name is Jesus. Listen to what it says in Matthew chapter 1. Verse 23. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Immanuel, which means God with us. Turn to your neighbor and say, God is with us. In his much-loved Christmas hymn, O Little Town of Bethlehem, Phillips Brooks says this: no ear may hear his coming, but in this world of sin, where meek souls will receive him still, the dear Christ enters in. Think about it. Jesus came into our broken world to rescue us from sin and to give all who place their faith in him a new and vital relationship with the Father. Think of the promises that we have. It tells us in Hebrews that he will never leave us or forsake us. But if we have that promise, and it says here that God is with us, why is it so hard for us to sense his presence? Why? Why do we get so wrapped up and forget about the fact that he is with us? I'm going to run through these really quick, but then I'm going to look at them in greater depth. One of the reasons that we can't sense his presence is because I've created a barrier between him and I. Another reason is because I get distracted. And a third one is I permit all the noise around me to envelop me. You see, God never moves. It's always us who move away from him. God is always present. It's us who can't sense that he's there. He hasn't left. And I want to look at each of those things. I want to start with the barrier. His presence is affected by my unconfessed sin. When was the last time you confessed sin to the Father? Now I know we're all good people, aren't we? We never have a grumpy attitude. We never say anything that we're glad nobody can hear. No. If we're honest, there's something displeasing in our life. It's displeasing to God. It might be acceptable to everyone else, but it's not acceptable to Him. You know, we've kind of adapted the old, you know, it's not wrong if you don't get caught. Right? It's only wrong if you get caught. But God catches everything. And so this barrier comes between He and I don't understand why I don't feel His presence. And there's only one way that we can eliminate that barrier. David in Psalm 32, 3-5 says, "When I kept silent, my bones wasted away, my groaning all day long, for day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then I acknowledged my sin to you, and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." It's easy to allow that barrier. You know, I'm not that bad. I'm pretty good, right? You know so-and-so down the street, how they behave? But in my life, at least, that's one of the barriers that's the first place I go when I start to not feel the presence of God in my life. I pray as David did, "Search me, O God, and reveal anything in me that's displeasing to you." So if you want to feel the presence of God today, start there. Ask Him to search you. And it's really kind of simple. Come clean with God. Right? The second barrier that I struggle with is distraction. And I think of this as internal distractions. You know, worry. Anybody here ever worry? Or get anxious? Or the cares of this world draw our attention away from Him? What's going to happen? And you know, I just start internalizing it, and it draws my attention from Him. He's there, but I'm so wrapped up in everything else around me that I forget that He is present. In fact, sometimes I go searching for Him. This week we're out at Donnelly's and Danielle's babysitting the grandkids, and Newton, that's their dog. He's a little bit rambunctious when strangers are around. He's really very codependent on Danielle and Donnelly. And so he was doing some things he shouldn't be doing, and we got him all situated, but then all of a sudden it got really quiet. That's always bad, isn't it? With kids or dogs, it gets really quiet. And so I started looking for him and you know, searching to see where he was and what he was up to. And the whole time, Pam was at the table working on a project, and he was sitting at her feet, just laying there. And it reminded me, that's how God is sometimes. I'm all over the place trying to figure out where He's at and what He's up to, and He's right there. Again, He hasn't left, but I've allowed things to distract me. Jesus tells the story about, well, in Luke chapter 10, but Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Imagine if Jesus came to your house today for lunch. Okay, you got to get up and leave right now, right? I got to clean the house. It's not that it was bad things, but she became distracted by all the preparations. And then she goes to Jesus and she says to Him, "Hey, Jesus, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all this work that has to be done? And remember what Jesus said to her? Martha, you're worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Good things, good tasks, necessary tasks can distract us from God's presence in our life. And the solution is simple. Hebrews 3 tells us this, therefore, holy brothers, you share in the heavenly calling. Fix your thoughts on Jesus, the apostle and high priest whom we confess. The cure for distraction is to keep our focus on Jesus. And how do we do that? We do it by coming and gathering in worship and being reminded of his goodness to us, being reminded of his presence in our life. We do it when we look to his word on a regular basis. It's always funny. Yesterday I was watching some football. And there were a couple of plays where the guy was downfield, wide open, nobody on him, the quarterback throws the pass, the guy grabs it, and then what happens? He drops it because he takes his eye off the ball. And instead of scoring a touchdown, it's 3rd down and 10 or whatever. And that's the way it is with us sometimes, isn't it? We take our eyes off of Jesus. And we start to allow worry and anxiety and what-ifs to affect his presence in our life. It hasn't changed, but our focus has. So, barrier of sin, distracted from within, and the third thing that impacts my ability sometimes to feel the presence of Jesus is just the noise. The noise of life. It's noisy, isn't it? I'm kind of surprised we haven't had an ambulance go by yet, or a fire truck or something. I mean, it seems like every Sunday one does, doesn't it? There's always noise that is affecting us. And I think of this as things that are external that we really can't have 100% control over, but they just take place. I mean, again, he hasn't left. I called him up on my phone. But there are other things like social media. I laughed this week. I took an assessment about digital addiction. And there were 51 questions on it, and one of them was like, do you use social media, email, text, or read articles from your phone while watching movies or TV at home? Now, how many people have ever done that? You know? Or in the old days, I'd be sitting there reading a book and watching a TV show, or, you know, it's like, but the noise around us, you know, and then I got to thinking, isn't it interesting? This is a smartphone, and I'm a dummy. Right? I mean, they've really affected our lives. And it just envelops us. And you know, I look at some of the young people, and they can't for a moment set their phone down. They're constantly looking at it or going to stuff, and it's just, our world is noisy. And it pushes us away from the presence of God. And I've learned in my own life that turning it down isn't enough. I have to turn it off sometimes, don't I? I have to get away. And Jesus, in the Psalms it says this: be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. When was the last time you just sat somewhere quietly with nothing on, it's like this, uncomfortable a little bit, isn't it? But be still. And I think there are two things that we can do to eliminate this noise. And the first one is to eliminate it. I mean, just eliminate it. Do I have to have my phone with me everywhere? One of the questions on that thing was, do you take your phone into the bathroom or your laptop or your you know, and it's like, I know a lot of people who do. No, don't look at the person sitting next to you. But eliminate it. Just, it's done. At 59, my mom had a heart attack. And she had open heart surgery, and I think they did, 5 bypasses on her. And one of the things that our family loves is to eat good food, especially food that has all 4 food groups in it. You know what the food groups are, right? Grains and vegetables and dairy and meat. And so, you know, our go-to, and it's still mine, pizza. It's got all 4 of them, right? And whenever we were together as a family, my 2 brothers who live in Georgia, when they come up here, they have pizza around the clock. I mean, really, they'll, okay, we had Monocle's for lunch, we're going to have Aurelio's for supper, we're going to go to Lou Malnati's and get some for a snack later in the night, and then we can have it for breakfast, and you know, it's just pizza, 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 pizza. And after her heart attack, my mom eliminated pizza from her life. Oh, she'd go with us, and it was hard for us, not at all, when she'd be sitting there having a salad or something else. She had to totally eliminate pizza from her life. And sometimes we just need to eliminate the things that are making noise from our life. And then we need to expose ourselves to the Word of God. I wonder what would happen if in America, everyone who is a Christ follower were to spend an equal amount of time in this book as they do on Facebook or Twitter or watching the news or reading a fictional novel or whatever, how would it impact our world? I know I don't spend as much time in this book as I do in those other things at times, right? Or watching television or whatever it is. But what if we exposed ourselves more to His Word, the more we would feel His presence? The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Immanuel, which means God with us. Father, I ask you to search our hearts right now, and if there is any sin that is creating a barrier between us, that you would reveal it to us, and then we would do whatever it is, whatever is necessary to remove that barrier. There are so many things that are obstructions to our feeling your presence. We know that you're here. You've promised to be here. And that promise gives us great hope. Thank you for loving us so much, for wanting to be with us even when we allow the worries of this life or the noise of this life to kind of hide your presence in our life. During this time of year when the focus is on the manger and the coming of Christ, may we be reminded that you are with us every day, wherever we are. You are there in our presence. If we'll just be present with you. Father, thank you again for loving us and caring for us and providing for us. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. We're going to sing a song.